All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And yes, breaking news has just been confirmed by James Gunn himself that the casting of Superman and Lois is complete, and they are moving forward with the Superman Legacy film. And we're going to look at their choices, but I have a few photos we're going to look at first. And I will tell you that the reason they're announcing this now, we're not even 2 weeks into the release of The Flash, and the studio is trying to direct everybody's attention away from the bad press and move on, using the guy that caused them to fail in the first place, which I think is freaking hilarious. But let's look at a few things here. So this was a bit of news that came out yesterday that both siblings Alexander and Bill Skarsgård have both been mentioned as being on the short list for Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy. It looks like they both did screen tests, and these guys are brothers, if you don't know who they are. One of them just ended a run on Succession, and he also played Tarzan. I believe that's Bill Skarsgård. And Alexander, I can't remember which one's which. And I think Alexander is the one that was just in John Wick 4 as the bad guy, and he's done a few other things. He was in It as well as the clown. But both of those guys look like they're on there, and they're both in the running for Lex Luthor apparently. And I'm sure because we got the announcement of who's Superman and Lois today that we're going to get the Lex Luthor announcement here pretty soon. So this was something I grabbed yesterday, and it was from the Hollywood Reporter, but we now know who these people are. But it says James Gunn assembled 3 actors and 3 actresses for Superman and Lane in Superman Legacy. The actors were seen in predetermined pairs. You had Nicholas Hoult and Rachel Brosnahan. You had Tom Brittney and Phoebe Dinavor, and David Corenswet and Emma Mackey. Well, we now know who these people are. We're going to take a look at that here in one quick second. Now, this made me laugh. James Gunn agrees there are too many superhero movies, but really lazy storytelling is a bigger issue. I'm watching third acts of superhero films where I really just don't feel like there's a rhyme or reason to what's happening. Yeah, you know, it's funny that he comes off and talks about this stuff because I don't see him, like I said, I just don't think he's the guy. And he's going to have to prove me wrong. And I will be covering everything Superman Legacy moving forward, so stick to my channel. And as stuff gets dropped and, videos get dropped, I will be covering everything going forward into this new universe that he is trying to create, but I think is DOA. Now, this was kind of an interesting thought. Someone mentioned since Blue Beetle is in the DCU, should it be released after Superman Legacy so that it won't suffer the effect of the old DCEU? That's a good idea, but see here, the investors who invested in these movies need a return on their investment. So they're not going to let this movie, gestate for 3 years. It's just not going to happen. And so, the studio has created their own bed, and now they have to lay in it. This announcement of this reboot and everything that they've done have destroyed these last 4 films. There's no question about it. They're already making excuses for Blue Beetle, and Aquaman has already been butchered, and the director even talked about that. He doesn't even know what version is actually going to end up being released. He said it's a complete mess. So now let's take a look at the casting on Superman and Lois. Here we go. This is from Deadline. David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan land the roles of Clark Kent and Lois Lane in Superman Legacy. I thought Gunn said that nothing that's happening behind the scenes gets leaked without him or his partner leaking it. Yet these people were talked about months and months ago. So it's no surprise that these are the people that we are casting. So we're getting younger, very younger. We're getting younger. This doesn't make sense, in regards to what they're doing, because we're getting a very young Superman and a very young Lois, yet we're going to have a Batman who has a son who's already 7 years old that we didn't know about. This universe is already screwed up. I don't see how they're going to make this work. And there's been some information about Superman Legacy, and I'm going to switch over and talk about this. So there's been some information about Superman Legacy that has been released talking about how the Authority is definitely going to be in the movie and is going to set up future events. And supposedly it's the Green Lantern show that's going to actually lead up to the big antagonist or whatever is going to drive the whole DCU story, cohesive story going forward. But apparently Superman is being thrust into a world where a bunch of superheroes already exist. And people are already complaining that this is all too much too fast in the first film. We need a straight-up Superman film. We don't need to have a bunch of cameos from all these different superheroes in this first film. That's what everybody complained about what Zack Snyder did with Batman vs. Superman. And yet the studio's doing it in a much bigger fashion in this first film, and they have to do it on a budget. So they've got a bunch of people that they need to cast, and I just don't see this coming together, and I still don't know what investors are investing in this movie going forward, because there's very little faith with the general audience and the fans that this is going to work going forward. It's a completely fractured fan base. They've got people upset, and there's only a small group of people who are just pro-gun. And I mean, when they say they're pro-gun, they're like pro-gun. Like, it's crazy off the charts. Oh, he's the best thing that's ever happened since sliced bread type of thing. It's like, it's crazy off the charts. And they said people who like the DCU are cultists. I'm seeing it completely in the other direction. But I will be covering more news as it gets released. If they announce, Lex Luthor, I will be back to talk about that as well. I do appreciate the support. If you haven't yet, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new videos go up.